Okay, this one hurts. Apple has canceled the Apple Car project. Yes, Project Titan, the Apple Car project, whatever you want to call it, is dead. Apple is no longer working on a car. And if you didn't know, basically internally inside Apple, they've been working on an Apple Car project for around the past 10 years. So this is actually a pretty big deal. This didn't come out of nowhere. This isn't like, 2 days ago, Apple was like, you know what, maybe we'll make a car. Nah, never mind. They have been spending money on this. They have devoted a lot of employee talent to this effort. They have put a lot of man hours, a lot of time, a lot into this car project. And after 10 years, they are saying, no, we're not doing it. We are not moving forward. And basically, you might go, oh, this is just like a random rumor. Maybe we shouldn't put too much stock in it. But this is coming from one of the best Apple reporters out there, Mark Gurman. And he's saying he basically saw an internal Apple email that was sent out by COO Jeff Williams, who is basically second in command to Tim Cook. And in this email, Williams basically told 2,000 Apple employees who were dedicated to working on this Apple Car project. That's how big of a project this was. 2,000 Apple employees were working on this. He told them that, it's over. The Apple Car is not moving forward, and basically we are going to relocate a lot of these employees to working on AI features. iOS 18 is rumored to be like a major push for Apple in terms of AI features, and obviously the whole tech industry right now seems to be focused on artificial intelligence, and Apple, I guess, sees the writing on the wall and they're going, you know what? We can't sacrifice any more of our employee talent or resources on this pipe dream Apple Car project. We gotta get rid of it, and we got to move on to what they probably think is a much bigger deal, AI, and I get that. But I ultimately want to tell you in this video why I think the Apple Car project is dead, why Apple canceled it, and I do think there's probably like 4 reasons for why Apple isn't moving forward with this. So number one, I would say that is cost. Like I just mentioned, Apple has devoted a lot of resources to the Apple Car. Over 10 years of development. That, number one, with all of that R&D, is going to rack up a huge bill. We're talking about millions, potentially billions of dollars being spent on this project. And recently, we've had a lot of rumors talking about the cost of the Apple Car, because this was a product that was actually supposed to come out within like the next few years. Like I believe Apple was targeting 2026 more recently for the debut of the Apple Car. And the cost of that car was something crazy. Now I know like Apple gets like a lot of flack for like their pricing, right? Like $1,000 iPhone, it's expensive. They recently just released the Vision Pro, $3,500. Oh, it's so expensive. But this car was gonna make all that stuff look cheap, right? The rumored cost for that car was $100,000 starting. $100,000 starting, which maybe in the car market isn't crazy, right? There's premium cars out there, but I like to think of Apple as like a mass market company. They don't want to sell a product to like a few people. They want to sell it to a lot of people. I think Vision Pro maybe being one of the rare exceptions, but even that, again, it's $3,500, not $100,000. So that already was kind of strange for Apple. This would be a product that is targeted at a very limited audience. And even worse, even though this car was rumored to cost $100,000, even then, apparently, it was not set at the right margins. There were reports that Apple basically maybe wasn't even going to make money on this car, and they might have had to sell it, maybe not like at a loss for that car, but after building out all the resources that they would have to sell this car, they would not make their money back on this project for a very, very long time. So yeah, the Apple Car was basically just getting too expensive, and they were looking at the numbers, they were crunching them, they didn't have the right margins. Like if to meet Apple's margins around like 30 to 40%, this car would probably have to cost more than $100,000. It probably would have been doomed in the electric car market. So I think that's probably number one, the biggest reason why this thing is canceled. But number two, I also think it's the scale. Listen, Apple is great at manufacturing. It would have been insane to see them make a car. I would have loved to see how they were able to bring all their manufacturing pipelines together to make a really amazing car. And I truly believe they could have done it. But when you think about the scale of shipping out iPhones or laptops or iPads, these are small products. A car is huge, right? Like it weighs a ton. It's much bigger, obviously. You have to fit people inside of it. And that would have been a little foreign to Apple on how they would do that. Like, how would they actually ship out these cars? How would they allocate resources to making these cars? Car companies obviously do this, but Apple really doesn't have any experience manufacturing cars. It would have been a whole new skill set for them to learn. And I think one of the bigger hurdles for that with scale might have more to do with their retail stores. Apple has a lot of retail stores, and they're obviously well-versed at selling you personal computers and phones, but an Apple car, that would have been hard. They would have had to make entirely new stores that could fit these cars inside of them. They would have had to start giving away like test drives. And when you think about that, the scale where Apple would have to store these cars on lots and then build out like special Apple stores where they could actually sell the car and then demo them to you, that sounds like a lot of work, especially for a product that maybe they weren't 100% believing in at this point that would make them like a huge profit. Don't forget, it isn't just like Apple with like Tim Cook saying, you know what, maybe we should do this car project because it's a good idea, but they also have to answer to board members. They have to answer to shareholders, right? So if this project was going to lose them money for like the next 5 or 10 years, it probably wasn't seen as a worthwhile effort. So money and scale, I think, were big contributing factors to this. And, kind of going off that with money, when we're looking at all the hype in the tech industry right now, where all the money is really being spent, it's being spent in artificial intelligence. And we've even seen like a lot of news stories and reports saying that Apple was kind of caught unaware by the AI boom. Obviously, ChatGPT is probably one of like the most, notorious examples of AI right now. And when you see the features and capabilities of generative AI with things like Photoshop, with the new Sora project, where it can kind of like generate videos, like AI is really exciting. It has a lot of capabilities. And right now, in terms of Apple's own ecosystem, even though they are using artificial intelligence a lot with like their chip design and machine learning and kind of like predictive text and all that stuff, right? Those are AI features, but Apple really hasn't shipped any kind of like, I would guess, like 2.0 AI features where, maybe you have like a chat bot, or you could do like a generative fill in photos, or, you could ask like, I don't know, Siri some questions and it would be like a little bit smarter. It would use these AI models instead of like the standard Siri responses, right? And these are all examples off the top of my head. I'm sorry if I'm not explaining them properly, but basically Apple, I would say, is not like a market leader in those AI features that are kind of front-facing right now with the rest of the market. So, and I think we see that with this internal email. 2,000 employees being taken off a car project. They're not being put on like the Vision Pro project, which maybe is just as important to Apple, but they are being put on their AI teams. So I think that kind of speaks to how the market is moving right now in terms of AI capabilities. And I think Apple really wants to ramp up their own AI capabilities to go, hey, we're here too, and we can do the same thing. So that's like the third reason. And then the fourth reason, and what I really think ultimately kind of killed this car project, is Apple couldn't get self-driving right. Ever since the start of this Apple Car project, Apple has been focused on just one goal, and that was shipping a self-driving car. And 10 years ago, when we talked about self-driving cars, it seemed more of like a possibility by now. I mean, even Tesla was promising that we would have a full self-driving car by now. I know Tesla cars have self-driving features. They're slightly autonomous, but they're not fully autonomous. It can't fully drive you everywhere. And basically, Apple wanted to deliver that. They were designing cars that didn't have steering wheels inside of them. And yeah, they were planning to ship a car that literally didn't have a steering wheel in it. They didn't even want to give you the option to drive yourself. They were fully focused on making a self-driving car. And I think Apple, realized 10 years down the road that self-driving isn't a technology that is going to be available anytime soon. I mean, we've even heard recent reports, basically like a few months ago, saying Apple kind of scaled back their car project, and they've come to terms with that. We're going to design a car that has a steering wheel in it, and it's going to have very limited self-driving functionality. And like I said, that was like a month or two ago when that report came out from Mark Gurman saying that they really scaled back this car project. They're going to ship a car with a steering wheel in 2026. And I think, Tim Cook looked at it, or the Apple employees looked at it, and they went, you know what? This isn't exciting anymore. If we ship a car with a steering wheel that has limited self-driving functionality, just like every other electric car on the market today, what makes our car special? At the end of the day, they would be shipping just another electric car. It would be a Me Too product, right? It would be like, hey, look at me. I'm shipping a product too. That it's the same electric car. It does the same things as Tesla. And I feel like Apple wants to be an innovator. They want to be a market leader. They want to make new experiences that haven't even been done before. I think Vision Pro is a great example of that, of where, yes, it is a VR headset, but it does things in a way that other headsets don't. Like, they really did a whole new take on spatial computing, and it's a new experience, even though it's a similar form factor to what has come before. But if Apple was shipping a car, right? Cars have been done before, but if they shipped the first full self-driving car with no steering wheel, it would be like, oh wow, this is a whole new experience. But if they're just shipping a car with a steering wheel, kind of what's the point of that, right? It's just another car. And ultimately, I guess that is probably why the Apple Car project is dead. Apple didn't want to just ship another car, especially at the huge risk that would be involved shipping just a normal car that, worked the same as every other electric car on the market today. Honestly, I am a little sad though, because I do love Apple technology. I love the Apple ecosystem. I'm sure an Apple car would have been great to use in this Apple ecosystem. And I'm also scared that, other third parties, now that they know that Apple isn't in the car space, might try and pull some things, right? Like we've heard of third-party manufacturers basically saying we're not doing Apple CarPlay anymore. So is that something that's going to move forward now, where they're like, well, Apple's no longer a threat. We don't have to worry about them making their own car. So maybe we won't ship Apple CarPlay anymore. We'll do our own thing. And Tesla already doesn't even offer Apple CarPlay. So it's something that could be kind of bad for Apple owners in the future. But hey, I guess ultimately right now, the car project just isn't important enough. And that is why Apple killed the Apple Car. So yeah, this news story just happened. I hope this video was coherent enough, and I hope it provided you insight into why Apple is no longer moving forward with the Apple Car. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this? Were you excited for the Apple Car? Was there any chance that you would buy one? And are you sad like me that, Apple isn't even working on this anymore? If you liked the video, make sure you give me a like. If you want to see more, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll catch you in the next video. I gotta go cry, I guess. No, I'm not gonna cry, but it's sad. I was kind of excited for this project.